Imagine stepping out onto your balcony, patio, or small backyard and picking a handful of fresh, juicy fruit. Straight from your own tree. No big yard, no orchard, no fancy greenhouse. Just beautiful, productive fruit trees growing right in containers. Sounds impossible? Think again. You don't need acres of land to grow your own fruit. With the right varieties, a few large pots, and a little care, you can grow apples, peaches, lemons, figs, even cherries in the smallest of spaces. In today's video, we're counting down 8 incredible fruit trees that thrive in pots and small spaces. Perfect for patios, balconies, courtyards, or even sunny windows. These trees are compact, productive, and beautiful year-round. Proof that you can have your own mini orchard no matter where you live. So, grab your gardening gloves. Because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which fruit trees to grow, how to care for them, and how to keep them healthy and thriving in containers. Let's get started. 1. Dwarf apple trees, the classic in mini form. Let's start with the timeless favorite, apples. There's just something magical about plucking a crisp, juicy apple straight from your own tree. And the best part? You don't need an orchard to do it. Modern dwarf and columnar apple trees are absolute game changers for container gardeners. These compact powerhouses can thrive in pots, patios, or even balconies, bringing all the flavor and fragrance of a full-sized tree in a tiny package. Varieties like Golden Sentinel, North Pole, Honeycrisp, and Pixie Crunch have been specially bred to stay small, around 5 to 8 feet tall, while still producing generous harvests of full-sized apples. To get started, choose a large pot at least 20 inches wide and deep, with excellent drainage holes. Apple roots don't like sitting in soggy soil. Fill it with a premium quality potting mix enriched with compost or well-rotted manure. Apples love full sun. Give them at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight daily. A sunny balcony, driveway, or backyard corner works perfectly. Now, here's an important tip. Most apple trees need cross-pollination, meaning you'll get better fruit if you grow 2 compatible varieties side by side. But if you're too tight on space, no worries. Go for self-pollinating types like Golden Delicious, Liberty, or Fuji. Water regularly, especially during the growing season, keeping the soil slightly moist but never soaked. In early spring, feed with a balanced organic fruit tree fertilizer, then again in midsummer to support fruiting. When it comes to pruning, think of it as sculpting your tree. Remove crossing branches, thin out dense growth, and shape it to allow sunlight to reach all sides. This not only keeps it compact, but also encourages healthier fruit. And let's not forget the show. Apple trees are stunning when they bloom. In spring, delicate pink and white blossoms burst open, filling the air with a soft, sweet fragrance. It's like having your own miniature orchard right outside your door. Then, as summer rolls into autumn, those blossoms transform into shiny red, green, or golden fruits. You can pick them fresh for snacks, pies, or cider, all from a tree growing just a few feet tall. It's one of the most rewarding container trees you can grow. Beautiful, productive, and nostalgic all at once. 2. Dwarf peach trees. Sweet harvests in small pots. Next up, one of the most irresistible fruits of all time, peaches. There's nothing quite like biting into a homegrown peach. Warm from the sun, dripping with sweetness, and so fragrant it perfumes the whole patio. And believe it or not, you can grow that same orchard experience in a simple pot. Dwarf peach trees like Bonanza, Eldorado, or Pix Z are tailor-made for small space gardeners. They typically stay between 4 and 6 feet tall, yet produce heavy crops of full-sized fruit. Start with a deep container, around 18 to 24 inches wide and just as deep. Peaches love room for their roots, and they'll thank you with faster growth and more fruit. These trees crave full sun, at least 6 hours daily at Twoi, and appreciate consistent watering. Unlike many fruit trees, peaches don't tolerate drying out. The key is to keep the soil evenly moist but not waterlogged. Use a potting mix with good drainage and add some compost to boost fertility. In early spring, you'll be rewarded with a spectacular show of pink blossoms. Absolutely breathtaking and a magnet for pollinators like bees. Then, as the weather warms, those flowers give way to fuzzy, golden-orange fruits that ripen by mid to late summer. Feed your peach tree with a slow-release or liquid fertilizer that's rich in potassium and phosphorus. These nutrients help promote flowering and fruit production. After harvest, do a little pruning. Remove dead wood, shape the canopy, and thin out crowded branches. This keeps the tree healthy and ensures plenty of sunlight and air circulation. If you live in a region with cold winters, move your potted peach to a sheltered area or an unheated garage once it goes dormant. Dwarf varieties are surprisingly hardy, but protecting the roots helps them wake up strong in spring. And don't underestimate the productivity. Even a single small tree can give you 20 to 40 peaches per season. Enough to enjoy fresh, make smoothies, bake pies, or share with neighbors. Plus, these trees are stunning year-round. Blossoms in spring, fruit in summer, and glowing foliage in fall. It's like having an edible work of art, one that rewards you with the sweetest harvest imaginable. 3. Meyer lemon, the balcony superstar. If there's one fruit tree every container gardener should grow, it's this one, the Meyer lemon. This little citrus legend is the definition of small but mighty. Compact, fragrant, and endlessly productive, it's perfect for patios, balconies, or even sunny indoor spaces. The Meyer lemon is actually a hybrid between a lemon and a mandarin orange, which gives it its signature charm. The fruit is slightly smaller, the rind is thin and smooth, and the flavor? Sweeter, more floral, and far less tart than a regular lemon. It's the citrus lover's dream, amazing for lemonade, cocktails, desserts, or fresh zest on everything from pasta to pastries. Now here's why it's a container superstar. This tree stays compact, usually between 3 and 6 feet tall, but can still produce dozens of lemons per year. It thrives in full sun, so if you can give it 6 to 8 hours of direct light daily, it will absolutely thrive. Use a large pot with excellent drainage holes, ideally 18 to 24 inches wide. Citrus trees hate wet feet, so a well-draining soil mix is a must. Look for one specifically made for citrus or mix your own with compost, perlite, and coarse sand. Water deeply but infrequently. Let the top inch of soil dry out between waterings, then soak it thoroughly until water drains out of the bottom. This mimics the deep rain cycle citrus trees love. And don't forget, feeding citrus are hungry plants. Use a high-quality citrus fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season, spring through early fall. The added nitrogen keeps those glossy green leaves healthy and the fruit coming. Now, one of the best things about the Meyer lemon? It's totally portable. If you live in a colder region, simply bring it indoors for winter before the first frost. Place it near a bright south-facing window. Mist the leaves occasionally to keep humidity up, and it will continue to thrive. Even bloom and fruit indoors. The flowers are unbelievably fragrant, like a natural air freshener that fills your whole space with that sweet tropical scent. And yes, it can produce fruit year-round, especially if you keep it warm and well-fed. Picture this: snow falling outside and you're inside your kitchen, plucking a golden lemon from your own tree. That's the magic of the Meyer lemon: beauty, fragrance, and flavor, all in one little pot. 4. Dwarf cherry trees, sweet treats in small spaces. Now let's talk about one of the most delightful trees you can grow in a container, the dwarf cherry tree. When most people think of cherries, they imagine sprawling orchards with endless rows of trees. But the truth is, modern compact cherry varieties make it possible to enjoy that same experience, right on your patio or balcony. Varieties like Stella, Lapins, Sweetheart, and Compact Stella are perfect for small spaces. They grow to about 6 to 8 feet tall, yet still produce full-sized, juicy cherries that taste every bit as sweet as orchard-grown fruit. Start with a large, sturdy pot, about 20 inches across and deep, with excellent drainage. Fill it with a rich, loamy potting mix, ideally with some compost or aged manure mixed in. Cherries like slightly acidic soil and steady moisture, but they don't want to sit in waterlogged soil. Place your tree in full sun at least 6 to 8 hours a day. The more sun it gets, the better your bloom and fruit set will be. Now, here's where cherry trees really shine. Springtime. Before the leaves appear, your dwarf cherry will burst into bloom with clouds of delicate pink and white blossoms that rival even ornamental cherry trees. It's a breathtaking sight, like having your own slice of Japan's cherry blossom season right at home. After the blooms fade, they give way to clusters of glossy red cherries that ripen by early summer. You'll know they're ready when they turn deep red and feel slightly soft to the touch. Sweet varieties like Stella and Lapens are incredible straight from the tree, bursting with juice and flavor. And here's the best part. Most dwarf cherries are self-fertile, meaning you only need one to get fruit. But if you plant two different varieties, you'll often get larger and more abundant harvests. Feed your tree in spring with a balanced fertilizer, 10-10-10 or organic equivalent, and again after fruiting to help it recharge. Prune lightly in late winter to maintain shape and remove dead or crossing branches. If you live somewhere with cold winters, these trees are hardy, but the roots in a pot are more exposed. So wrap the container in burlap or move it to a sheltered spot when temperatures drop below freezing. Beyond the harvest, dwarf cherries are incredibly ornamental. Their spring blossom, summer fruits, and golden red fall leaves make them a year-round centerpiece. And there's something special about walking outside on a summer morning, reaching out and plucking a handful of ripe cherries, straight from your own little tree. 5. Calamandan orange, the tiny citrus wonder. If you love the look, scent, and charm of citrus trees, but don't have a lot of space, then let me introduce you to one of the most delightful miniature fruit trees you can grow, the Calamandan orange. This little tree might just be the perfect blend of beauty and productivity. Imagine a compact plant, just a few feet tall, covered in glossy green leaves, tiny white blossoms that perfume the air, and bright orange fruit that looks like miniature tangerines. It's like having a slice of the tropics sitting right on your patio or kitchen windowsill. Calamandan trees are small, usually around 3 to 5 feet tall, but they're mighty producers. Once mature, they can hold dozens, even hundreds, of fruits at a time. And here's the best part. They're ever-bearing, meaning they can bloom and fruit multiple times a year. You'll often find flowers, green fruit, and ripe oranges all on the same plant. The fruit itself is tiny, about the size of a golf ball, and wonderfully tangy. You can eat them whole, skin and all, because the peel is sweet while the juice inside is sour. The flavor is somewhere between a lemon and a mandarin, making them amazing for marmalades, citrus curds, cocktails, or even cooking. They're a secret ingredient in many Southeast Asian and Filipino dishes, prized for their bright, zesty kick. But what truly sets Calamandan apart from other citrus trees is how adaptable it is. While most citrus struggle indoors, this one thrives. It's one of the few that truly enjoys being a houseplant. Just place it in the sunniest spot you can find, near a south or west-facing window, and it will reward you with constant growth and blooms. It's not overly fussy about soil either. Use a light, well-draining potting mix and make sure the container has plenty of drainage holes. Keep the soil evenly moist but never soggy. If the top inch feels dry, it's time to water. Feed it with a citrus fertilizer every few weeks during spring and summer, and mist the leaves occasionally to keep humidity up. In winter, when indoor air is dry, a small humidifier nearby can make a big difference. And because it's naturally compact, you don't need to prune much. Just remove the occasional stray branch to keep its shape. Beyond the fruit, Calamandan is a showstopper for decor. The combination of shiny green foliage, fragrant blossoms, and little orange fruits makes it look like a living piece of art, cheerful and exotic at the same time. It brightens any corner, indoors or out. Imagine this. Guests walk into your home, catch a whiff of citrus blossom, and see a glowing orange tree by the window. And then you casually mention, "Oh, those are my calamandans. I make marmalade from them." Instant admiration. So if you want something that's easy, ornamental, and endlessly rewarding, the Calamandan orange might just become your new favorite container tree. 6. Fig trees, the Mediterranean marvel. Now let's talk about one of the oldest and most beloved fruit trees in history, the fig tree. Figs have been grown for thousands of years, and from ancient Egypt and Greece to the Mediterranean coasts of Italy and Spain. They symbolize abundance, sweetness, and peace. And guess what? You don't need a villa in Tuscany to grow one. You can grow your own fig tree, right in a pot. Unlike many fruit trees, figs actually enjoy being confined. They thrive when their roots are slightly restricted, which makes them ideal for container growing. A happy potted fig produces lush tropical leaves and delicious fruit that looks straight out of a Mediterranean postcard. Choose compact, container-friendly varieties like Petite Negra, Brown Turkey, Celeste, or Little Miss Figgy. These are naturally smaller and produce high-quality fruit even in limited space. Petite Negra is especially great. It can start fruiting when it's barely 2 feet tall. Use a large pot, at least 18 to 24 inches across and deep, with excellent drainage. Figs love moisture but hate standing water. A mix of garden, loam, compost, and perlite or sand works perfectly. They thrive in full sun, so the brighter the spot, the better. If you live in a cooler region, position your fig near a warm wall or patio where it can soak up extra heat. The warmth helps ripen the fruit faster and makes the leaves even more lush. Now, let's talk about the fruit, because this is where figs really shine. In late summer, you'll see clusters of small, pear-shaped fruits forming along the branches. As they ripen, they turn shades of deep purple, bronze, or honey brown, depending on the variety. When they start to droop slightly and feel soft to the touch, that's your cue. Pick one, split it open, and you'll find the sweet, jam-like flesh glistening inside. The taste is rich, complex, and almost caramel-like. Nature's dessert. Even better, many varieties can produce 2 harvests a year, one in early summer and another in late summer or early fall. That means twice the sweetness from one small tree. Figs are low maintenance too. Prune lightly in winter to shape the tree and remove any weak growth. Feed it in spring with a balanced organic fertilizer, and again midsummer if it's still actively growing. In colder climates, you'll need to protect the tree in winter. Once it goes dormant, move the pot to a sheltered, frost-free spot like a garage or basement. Don't worry. Figs lose their leaves naturally in winter, then burst back to life in spring. And let's not forget, even without fruit, fig trees are gorgeous. Their big hand-shaped leaves give off a tropical vibe that transforms any space into a Mediterranean retreat. Imagine sitting on your balcony on a warm evening, surrounded by fragrant herbs and the rustle of fig leaves, plucking a ripe fruit straight from your tree. That's the joy of container gardening and the world's most ancient luxury right at your fingertips. 7. Dwarf pomegranate, jewel of the patio. If you're looking for a plant that combines beauty, symbolism, and fruit, few can match the dwarf pomegranate. Known as the jewel of the patio, this miniature version of the classic pomegranate tree brings color, energy, and elegance to any small garden, balcony, or sunny window corner. The moment it begins to bloom, it steals the show. The tree bursts with brilliant orange-red flowers shaped like tiny flaring trumpets. Against its glossy green leaves, they almost look like glowing embers dancing in the sun. Even before it fruits, it's breathtaking. But the real magic begins when those flowers transform into small, round pomegranates. Shiny, bronze-red globes filled with jewel-like seeds that shimmer like rubies. They may be smaller than the grocery store varieties, but don't underestimate them. They're bursting with flavor, sweet and tangy with that classic pomegranate richness. If you've ever opened a pomegranate and marveled at its hidden treasure of seeds, you know the "I eat you" feeling. Now imagine watching those treasures form on your own patio tree year after year. The most popular dwarf variety, Punica granatum nana, stays under 3 feet tall, making it perfect for pots. Another great option is State Fair, a compact variety known for its heavy blooming and small edible fruits. Caring for a dwarf pomegranate is refreshingly easy. These trees love full sun. The more light they get, the more flowers and fruits they produce. They also thrive in heat, tolerating drought far better than many fruit trees, thanks to their Mediterranean heritage. Use a well-draining potting mix. Cactus or citrus soil works beautifully. Water moderately. Allow the top inch to dry out between waterings. Overwatering can cause root rot, so less is often more. In spring and summer, feed with a balanced fertilizer once a month to encourage steady growth and vibrant blooms. In fall, as temperatures drop, reduce feeding and watering to help the tree rest. If you live in a cooler climate, don't worry, Keat. Dwarf pomegranates are easy to overwinter indoors. Once the weather dips below 40 grader, move your pot to a sunny windowsill or bright indoor corner. Even when it's not fruiting, its glossy foliage and unique shape make it a charming houseplant. And when the sun returns in spring, simply move it back outside. It will wake up, start blooming again, and resume its cycle of color and life. Beyond beauty and flavor, pomegranates carry deep symbolism. They represent abundance, prosperity, and renewal in cultures around the world. So, in a way, growing a dwarf pomegranate isn't just gardening. It's cultivating a living symbol of joy and resilience. So, if you want a plant that's ornamental, edible, and endlessly fascinating, the dwarf pomegranate deserves a place in your garden, or even on your windowsill. 8. Dwarf pear trees. Graceful and delicious. If elegance had a fruit, it would be the pear. Tall, slender, and gracefully shaped, pear trees have a natural charm that feels timeless. And now, with dwarf varieties, you can enjoy their beauty and sweetness even in a small garden or balcony. Compact types like garden bell, concord, patio pear, or urban treasure grow only 6 to 8 feet tall, yet they produce full-sized, juicy pears that taste every bit as good as those from a big orchard tree. In spring, they put on a show of stunning white blossoms, filling the air with a light, honeyed fragrance that attracts bees and butterflies. Then, through summer, the branches fill with clusters of glossy green fruit, slowly ripening into shades of gold, blush, or russet, depending on the variety. The sight of sunlit pears hanging from a small patio tree is something special. It's like having a little piece of countryside growing right outside your kitchen. Growing pears in containers is simpler than you might think. Start with a large pot, at least 20 inches wide, and deep, and use a rich, well-draining mix with compost or aged manure. Pears love slightly acidic soil, so adding a handful of peat moss or pine bark can help balance pH. They thrive in full sun, ideally 6 to 8 hours a day. Keep the soil consistently moist but not soggy, especially during the fruiting season. Steady moisture helps pears grow plump and juicy. Like apples, many pears need cross-pollination, which means you'll need 2 compatible varieties for fruiting. But don't let that discourage you, and there are several clever solutions. You can plant 2 dwarf pears in matching pots side by side. They'll pollinate each other beautifully. Or choose a self-fertile variety, such as Conference or Concord. Another option is a dual-grafted tree, where 2 pear types are grafted onto the same trunk. 1 tree, double the harvest. Feed your tree in spring with a slow-release fruit tree fertilizer, and top up with compost once or twice a year. Prune lightly in late winter to maintain shape and remove any crossing or weak branches. This keeps the tree open and airy, helping light reach the developing fruit. During summer, you can also thin the fruit if the branches are overloaded. Leaving about 4 to 6 inches between each pear helps them grow larger and more flavorful. Pears are typically ready for harvest in late summer or early fall. A ripe pear should lift easily from the branch with a gentle twist. You can pick them slightly firm and let them ripen indoors. They'll soften beautifully within a few days. And let's not forget the romance of the pear tree itself. The graceful silhouette, the seasonal transformation, and the reward of golden fruit at the end of the year. Even after harvest, the tree remains lovely. Its leaves turn shades of yellow and red in autumn, before gently falling away for winter. For small space gardeners who want something elegant, fruitful, and long-lived, the dwarf pear tree is perfection. It's not just a plant. It's a living piece of art that grows sweeter with every season. Have you ever walked through a blooming spring garden and thought, I wish mine looked like that? Here's the secret most seasoned gardeners never tell you. The best gardens are actually born in November. That's right. When most people are packing away their trowels and calling it quits for the season, smart gardeners are still sowing seeds, because November is nature's quiet window, the perfect time to start perennials that need a cold nap before they bloom next year. These are hardy, reliable plants that come back year after year, stronger and more beautiful than before. So grab a cup of tea, pull on your gloves, and let's dive into 7 perennials you can sow in November. Easy, stunning bloomers that will fill your garden with color, fragrance, and life next year. Whether you're gardening in beds, borders, or pots, these November seeds will give you a massive head start for spring. 1. Lupines, the towers of color. Have you ever walked past a cottage garden and seen those tall, elegant flower spires swaying in the breeze? Shades of violet, pink, and cream, catching the sunlight like stained glass? That's the magic of lupines, one of the most spectacular perennials you can grow. And November is exactly when their story begins. Lupines aren't delicate garden divas. They're rugged, wild beauties that actually love a challenge. In their natural habitat, they scatter seeds in late autumn. which then lie quietly under frost and snow until spring warmth nudges them awake. So when you sow them in November, you're not doing anything fancy. You're simply letting nature handle the hard work for you. Why November sowing matters. Lupine seeds have a tough outer shell, almost like nature's armor. That's why they can sit in frozen soil for months without rotting. The cold weather naturally breaks down that seed coat, a process called stratification, which prepares them to sprout strong, healthy seedlings when spring comes. If you wait until spring to sow, you'll have to fake that process in your fridge for weeks. But November planting? Mother Nature does it for free. How to sow? Start by nicking the seed coat with a nail file or soaking the seeds in warm water overnight. This helps moisture penetrate faster. Then sow them about half an inch deep in well-draining soil. You can plant directly in your garden bed or in pots left outside through winter. Choose a sunny spot and at least 6 hours of light a day, and make sure the soil isn't rich or heavy. Lupines actually thrive in lean soil because it encourages them to form deep taproots and produce more flowers. And here's a fascinating detail. Lupines are nitrogen fixers, meaning they naturally enrich your soil over time. They work with soil bacteria to pull nitrogen from the air and store it in their roots, improving fertility for neighboring plants. What to expect? When spring rolls around, those seeds will awaken into lush, rosettes of green foliage. By late spring to early summer, you'll see towering spikes of flowers, sometimes up to 3 or 4 feet tall, standing like sentinels in your garden. Their color palette is breathtaking. Deep indigo, rose pink, snowy white, buttery yellow, and sometimes bicolor blends that look hand-painted. Each flower spike blooms from bottom to top over several weeks, attracting a steady parade of bees, bumblebees, and butterflies. If you've ever wanted to bring pollinators into your garden, this is your secret weapon. When the blooms fade, simply cut the spent flower stalks before they set seed. And you might get a second, smaller bloom before autumn. Or if you prefer, let a few seed pods ripen and burst naturally. Next year, you'll find new baby lupines popping up nearby. Free gifts from your garden. Pro tip: if you're growing multiple colors, keep in mind that lupines cross-pollinate easily. That means next year's self-sown plants might surprise you with entirely new shades. Nature's way of painting your garden in endless variety. Extra care note: lupines prefer cool roots and warm tops, so mulch lightly around their base with bark chips or straw to keep moisture in and weeds out. And once established, resist the urge to move them. They hate root disturbance. Plant once and they'll reward you for years. 2. Cone flowers. The immunity powerhouse. Next up is a true garden legend, Echinacea, or as most people know it, the cone flower. It's not just a beautiful face, it's one of the toughest, most resilient, and most beneficial perennials you can grow. When most flowers fade under heat or drought, Echinacea stands tall, unbothered, unshaken, and absolutely radiant. Those bold, daisy-like petals and coppery orange centers light up any garden, and their blooms last for months. But here's something most beginner gardeners don't realize. The best time to start Echinacea is actually late fall, November. Why? Because Echinacea seeds need a cold rest to trigger germination. It's nature's way of ensuring they don't sprout too early. By sowing in November, you're syncing your planting with the plant's natural rhythm, giving the seeds the cold stratification they crave over winter, so they burst into life right on cue in spring. How to sow. Fill seed trays or pots with moist, well-draining soil. A mix of compost and sand works beautifully. Scatter the seeds on top, then cover lightly with about 1/4 inch of fine soil or vermiculite. Don't bury them too deep. Echinacea needs some light to germinate. Place your pots outdoors, somewhere protected from heavy rain but exposed to cold air. The freeze-thaw cycles of winter will gently work their magic. If you're direct sowing in the garden, choose a sunny, open bed where they'll get at least 6 hours of sunlight daily. In spring, once you see those sturdy little green leaves, thin the seedlings to give each one enough space and about 12 to 18 inches apart. Why gardeners love Echinacea? It's almost impossible to kill once it's established. Drought? No problem. Poor soil? It doesn't care. Deer? They walk right past it. And yet it blooms its heart out every summer, from mid-June straight through September, depending on your climate. The flowers are a pollinator's dream. Bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds all flock to them. And after blooming, when the petals fade and dry, the central cones harden into spiky seed heads that goldfinches adore. If you leave them standing through winter, you'll not only feed the birds, but also add sculptural beauty to your frosty garden. Medicinal power. Echinacea isn't just pretty. It's famous for its immune-boosting properties. Herbalists use the roots and petals in teas and tinctures to help the body fight colds and infections. Having this powerhouse in your garden feels like growing your own little pharmacy. Varieties to try. Echinacea purpurea, the classic purple-pink daisy form. Echinacea pallida, elegant with drooping pale petals. Echinacea white swan, bright, clean white flowers for contrast. Echinacea Cheyenne Spirit, a rainbow mix of orange, red, yellow, and pink. Pro tip: don't rush to cut everything back in fall. Leaving some flower heads to stand through winter provides food for wildlife and ensures reseeding. Come early spring, just trim away the old stalks and watch as new green growth pushes through the soil. Garden design idea: pair cone flowers with ornamental grasses, black-eyed Susans, or Russian sage for a stunning prairie-style display. The contrast of soft movement and bold color looks effortlessly natural, and it's nearly maintenance-free. Final note: Echinacea teaches one of the greatest gardening lessons. Strength and beauty aren't opposites. They grow together. Once you add them to your garden, they'll reward you with endless color, health benefits, and a touch of wild charm. 3. Black-eyed Susans, sunshine that never quits. If your garden ever feels dull or lifeless, black-eyed Susans are the burst of joy it needs. Their golden petals with deep chocolate-brown centers glow like miniature suns. A radiant reminder that even as summer fades, beauty keeps shining. Black-eyed Susans are more than just pretty faces. They're among the toughest, most rewarding perennials you'll ever grow. And November? It's their perfect moment to begin. You see, in nature, Rudbeckia seeds fall to the ground at the end of the season, rest under frost and snow, and then spring to life as soon as the soil warms. By sowing them now, you're syncing your garden with nature's own rhythm. And it works every single time. Why November sowing is magic. The cold of winter helps break the seed's natural dormancy, a process called cold stratification. Without it, seeds may take forever to sprout. But give them a few months of chill and they'll awaken strong, vigorous, and eager to grow once the days lengthen. It's like tucking them in for a deep winter nap. And when they wake up, they're unstoppable. How to sow. Choose a sunny, well-drained spot in your garden. Rudbeckias adore the sun. Scatter the seeds over moist soil and press them down gently with your fingers or the back of a trowel. Do not cover them with too much soil as they need light to germinate. If you're using seed trays, place them outside in a sheltered area. The natural cycles of frost, snow, and rain will do the rest. Just make sure the soil doesn't stay soggy. Come spring, the first green rosettes will appear, and by midsummer, you'll be rewarded with golden blooms that last and last. Each flower seems to glow from within, turning your garden into a golden meadow that hums with life. Bees, butterflies, and even songbirds can't resist them. What makes them special? Black-eyed Susans are the definition of low maintenance. Once they take hold, they need almost no care. They tolerate drought, poor soil, and even blazing sun without missing a beat. Deer and rabbits usually skip them too, which is a blessing if you share your garden with wildlife. And when the petals finally fade and fall? Don't rush to cut them down. The seed heads become natural bird feeders. Goldfinches and sparrows will perch and pick at them through winter, adding movement and sound to your quiet, frosty garden. Pro tip: if you want a long, continuous bloom season, deadhead spent flowers regularly. That simple act encourages new buds to form, and you'll be amazed how long they keep going. By late summer, your garden will glow with rivers of gold. Pair Rudbeckias with purple coneflowers, blue Russian sage, or ornamental grasses. The color contrast is breathtaking, like a living sunset captured in your backyard. And here's the best part. Once you grow them, you'll likely never have to plant them again. They self-seed freely, scattering future generations of sunshine that bloom year after year. Effortless, cheerful, and timeless. 4. Shasta Daisy, the classic beauty. If there's one flower that captures pure simplicity and joy, it's the Shasta daisy. Crisp white petals, bright yellow centers, perfectly symmetrical blooms that seem to smile at the sun. They're the very image of a happy, carefree garden. Shasta daisies are the definition of timeless, loved by cottage gardeners, modern landscapers, and pollinators alike. They add brightness to borders, freshness to bouquets, and charm to every corner they grow in. And here's the secret. Sowing them in November gives you stronger plants, earlier blooms, and a head start for next summer's display. Why November is the secret weapon. Just like Rudbeckias, Shasta daisies benefit from the chill of winter. The cold stratification period helps the seeds break dormancy and grow into sturdy seedlings come spring. By sowing now, you're setting the stage for early, vigorous plants that will reward you with waves of pristine white flowers next year. How to sow. Start with a light, airy soil mix. Something well-draining but able to hold a bit of moisture. Sprinkle the seeds evenly on top and cover them very lightly with a dusting of soil or vermiculite. Daisies need a little light to germinate, so don't bury them too deep. If you're sowing directly outdoors, choose a sunny bed with good drainage. Shasta daisies hate soggy roots but adore sunshine. In pots or trays, leave them outside through winter in a sheltered area. Let the natural freeze and thaw cycles work their magic. When spring comes, those tiny green leaves will emerge strong and healthy. Once the seedlings have a few sets of leaves, transplant them to their final home, ideally about 12-15 inches apart. They'll quickly fill in and reward you with beautiful blooms by early to midsummer. Caring for your daisies. Shasta daisies are hardy perennials, meaning they'll return year after year with minimal care. They thrive in average soil and full sun. In fact, they bloom best when conditions are a bit lean. Too much fertilizer makes them tall, floppy, and less floriferous. So resist the urge to overfeed. A light compost mulch once a year is all they need. Bloom time and beauty. Once they start flowering, they don't stop. Expect dazzling white blooms from early summer all the way into autumn. The more you cut them for bouquets, the more they'll bloom. They truly thrive on attention. The contrast of bright petals and golden centers looks amazing next to lavender, salvia, or pink phlox. And when grouped together, they form clouds of white that shimmer in the sun, adding a clean, refreshing look to any garden design. Pro tip: after the first bloom flush fades, cut the plants back by about 1/3. This encourages fresh growth and often triggers a second bloom later in the season. Every 2 to 3 years, divide your Shasta daisies in early spring or late fall. This keeps them vigorous and prevents overcrowding. A bit of history. Did you know the Shasta daisy was created by American botanist Luther Burbank in the 1890s? He crossed several daisy species to produce one with larger, brighter blooms and tougher resilience, naming it after California's snow-capped Mount Shasta. So every time you grow these flowers, you're growing a little piece of horticultural history. A perfect blend of art, science, and nature. Final thoughts. There's something undeniably uplifting about Shasta daisies. They're clean, classic, and unfussy, like nature's smile. Plant them once and they'll brighten your garden for years, greeting every sunrise with open faces that remind you. Beauty doesn't have to be complicated. 5. Columbine, Aquilegia, the woodland fairy flower. Imagine stepping into your garden in late spring and spotting delicate, bell-shaped blooms nodding in the breeze. Each one a tiny masterpiece of color and form. Some look like lanterns, others like little doves in flight. That's the magic of columbines, or aquilegia, the flowers that seem plucked straight out of a fairy tale forest. They're often called Granny's Bonnet because of their charming, old-fashioned look. But don't be fooled, these plants are far from ordinary. Columbines are one of the most enchanting perennials you can grow, and the best part? They love the cold. November. Sowing is exactly what they're waiting for. In nature, columbine seeds fall to the ground at the end of summer. They rest quietly through the frost and snow, then come to life as soon as spring light filters through the trees. By sowing now, you're simply recreating that perfect rhythm of nature. How to sow. Find a semi-shaded spot, perhaps under trees, near shrubs, or along a north-facing fence, where the soil stays cool and slightly moist. Columbines adore these gentle woodland-like conditions, Scatter the seeds over the soil surface and press them in lightly with your palm or a flat board. Don't cover them. They need light to germinate. If you prefer more control, sow in shallow trays filled with moist seed compost. Leave them outside all winter, exposed to the natural freeze-thaw cycle. It's that very cold that cracks their dormancy and ensures strong spring germination. By early to mid-spring, you'll notice delicate seedlings, tiny green rosettes with soft fern-like leaves. As they grow, transplant them carefully to their final home, about 12 inches apart. Within their first or second season, you'll be rewarded with blooms that seem to float like butterflies above the foliage. The magic of columbines. Their flowers are breathtaking. Spurred petals in shades of deep indigo, lavender, pink, scarlet, or creamy white. Many are two-toned, with contrasting centers that glow in sunlight. They bloom just as the rest of the garden is waking up, bridging the gap between early spring bulbs and summer perennials. Columbines are also pollinator magnets. Hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees flock to their tubular blooms, drawn by the nectar inside. If you've ever wanted to turn a quiet corner of your garden into a buzzing, fluttering paradise, this is how you do it. And once they're established, they'll self-seed generously, scattering new plants every season in the most natural, graceful way. You'll find new colors and patterns emerging each year, a garden that evolves and surprises you on its own. Pro tip: after the first bloom, deadhead the spent flowers to encourage a second flush later in the season. But leave some seed heads too. Those papery pods will burst and spread seeds naturally, ensuring your garden remains sprinkled with columbine charm year after year. Fun fact: the name Aquilegia comes from the Latin word aquila, meaning eagle, because the flower's spurred petals resemble an eagle's talons. No wonder it's been a symbol of freedom and spirit for centuries. Columbines thrive on elegance and ease. Beautiful, low maintenance, and endlessly rewarding. They bring a touch of woodland wonder wherever they grow, turning even the shadiest corner into a stage for dancing fairies. 6. Poppies, the bold and the beautiful. If there's one flower that knows how to steal attention, it's the poppy. With petals as thin as paper and colors that burn like fire, poppies turn any garden into a living painting. Their silky blooms shimmer in the wind, glowing with an intensity that no other flower can match. And November, that's their moment. Why? Because poppy seeds love the cold. In nature, they fall in autumn, rest under frost and snow, and wake up when spring arrives. This chill period triggers perfect germination, something spring sowing can't replicate. How to sow? Pick a sunny, open spot with well-drained soil. Gently rake the surface, sprinkle the tiny seeds evenly and press them in. But don't cover them. Poppy seeds need light to sprout. Then let nature handle the rest. Winter rain and frost will work them into the soil naturally, and by early spring, you'll see fine green shoots appear. By late spring, you'll have a sea of color, reds, oranges, pinks, and whites, swaying gracefully in the breeze. They bloom boldly, fade quickly, and leave behind seed pods that rattle softly in the wind. A promise of next year's blooms. Varieties to try? Shirley poppies, classic wild red and pink hues. Icelandic poppies, soft pastels that love cool weather. Oriental poppies, large dramatic perennials that return every year. Care tips: poppies thrive on neglect. They like poor soil, minimal water, and full sun. Don't fertilize. Too much richness makes them leafy instead of floral. After flowering, let seed pods mature and scatter naturally. Poppies will happily replant themselves. Pro tip: combine annual and perennial types for both instant color and long-term beauty. Pair them with daisies or larkspur for a classic, romantic cottage look. Each bloom lasts only a few days, but that's what makes them special. When you plant poppies in November, you're not just sowing flowers. You're sowing moments of wonder that will light up your garden come spring. 7. Foxgloves, digitalis, the enchanting spires. If there's one flower that truly looks magical, it's the foxglove. With tall spires covered in bell-shaped blooms, pink, purple, white, or soft yellow, they look like fairy lanterns glowing in the shade. Bees love them, and they bring a touch of wild elegance to any garden. Foxgloves, are biennials, meaning they spend their first year growing lush green rosettes and bloom gloriously in their second. By sowing them in November, you give them exactly what they want. Time to root through the cold and prepare for a spectacular summer show. How to sow. Their seeds are tiny, almost like dust. Sprinkle them gently on moist soil and press lightly without covering. They need light to germinate. Keep the soil damp, but not soggy. Outdoors, winter rain and frost do the work for you. Indoors, keep trays cool and bright. Once seedlings appear, thin them to about a foot apart. Foxgloves thrive in partial shade and moist, fertile soil. They look stunning along fences, under trees, or at the back of flower borders where their tall spires can rise above the rest. Each bloom opens from the bottom up, giving weeks of color. After flowering, cut the main stalk to encourage side shoots or let some seed heads dry naturally. They'll scatter and self-sow for future years. Pro tip: if you plant new foxgloves each fall, you'll enjoy blooms every single summer. While one generation flowers, another is quietly growing. Note: foxgloves are beautiful but toxic if eaten. Admire them, don't touch or taste. When in full bloom, they're breathtaking, like candles lighting up the garden. Proof that even a few seeds sown in November can create something truly enchanting by next summer.